So, my dear brothers and sisters, today I came across one of the greatest clips ever, and this is all about current affairs and social life and what people actually think of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and especially members of the church. Now, I know there are some people who still are emphasizing on calling us as Mormons, and that name seems like it's not actually moving, leaving their lips. So they always like actually attacking the church members. And there is one of the analysis that was done by one of the biggest broadcasting news in America, and they were asking a question because of these uh, persecutions, and people are trying to undermine members of the church, and all these targeting, profiling messages and informations about the church. Will it actually contribute in killing the culture of the culture of the church? And in the course of actually them doing this, there was something very surprising here that I liked at the end of that video. And without further ado, I'd like just to invite you so that you can actually have a look on what exactly happened. Please, you're welcome.
Too. It happens over a lifetime as we repeatedly embrace the doctrine of Christ.
This past Sunday, President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints spoke to members during their semi-annual general conference about how they should deal with the affairs of the world.
From a recent chant at a BYU game to several documentaries trending on streaming services to news articles, there tends to be a lot of negativity surrounding the word Mormon.
That has led Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph to go in depth, asking why and why there's rarely much pushback from the LDS Church. Spencer joins us in studio tonight with this special report.
Good evening, and by no means should the church escape criticism or scrutiny just because of their nature. No one we spoke with said that, but in light of recent headlines and events, we as a team at Fox 13 decided to look more in depth at the light the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is painted in. It's game day at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. BYU is taking on Utah State University, and the fans are in good spirits. A far cry from a few short weeks ago. By now you've seen this viral video. Chants from the student section of the University of Oregon degrading BYU and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Begging the question, why?
This is what they gave everyone, the Fiesta Bowl. It was one of those. We lost it by a couple points, but it was a great experience. Again, it was BYU's first bowl game.
Dean Painter knows BYU well. Do you ever think about going pro?
No, I served my mission, and when I came back, I didn't have the same priority.
And like the rest of us, he saw the now viral chant. Do you hope that those chants stop?
No, I don't think they'll stop. I think that's been the case ever since the time of Christ and before. I mean, you're always going to have people of goodwill who are trying to worship. They're always going to be under attack.
As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he feels this chant is just the beginning.
Now I think it's just exploitation. I would tell you the reason is because there are forces out there that will want to get in the way of those that are moving forward.
You can't demonize an entire group. And if you paint with a broad brush, then that becomes really problematic, and that's corrosive to the kind of toleration that we want to promote in our society.
Patrick Mason is a professor at Utah State University and is one of the foremost authorities on the culture of the church in Utah.
Mormonism has always been an object of fascination in American culture. You go back to the 19th century, its history of, angels and gold plates and polygamy and all these kinds of things. And so it's always captured the public imagination. And it seems that in the 21st century, the same is true. We saw that the church was in the news all the time in the early 2010s because Mitt Romney was running for president. And there was the Book of Mormon musical.
More recently, Under the Banner of Heaven has attracted heavy attention about the faith.
We ask that we might be instruments in thy hand. panic began to ensue because 2 bombs.
Murder Among the Mormons was one of Netflix's top documentaries.
There are very expensive documents.
Even documentaries about FLDS leader Warren Jeffs and more recently, Lori Vallow Daybell focus heavily on the church.
And producers and so forth, that they're following the numbers, right? And so if a lot of viewers are watching documentaries about Mormonism or about, other conservative religions, then guess what? We're going to see more documentaries.
Media shares that fascination. Just a week ago, national publication The Guardian wrote this article pointing towards Mormons as being at fault for Utah's water situation, even going as far to call it a Mormon manifest destiny.
I wish they would have reached out to us because we could tell the whole story. It was very one-sided.
The Utah Department of Natural Resources doesn't share that sentiment. The church itself even cutting back on water. Take a look at the yellow lawn in front of the Logan Temple. The church asking its members to conserve too.
And whether you're a member of the LDS faith or not, I think this is something that all Utahns are recognizing as being an issue. And so my experience, the church has not encouraged, its general membership to have green grass.
The biggest headline came in August. Allegations of sexual abuse by an Arizona bishop and that a church helpline was used to cover it up. The church newsroom only issued a statement saying in part, the abuse of a child or any other individual is inexcusable, but added, the story presented in the AP article is oversimplified and incomplete and a serious misrepresentation of the church and its efforts. While the AP obtained thousands of documents and brought to light a terrible abuse, there was one glaring error: the name of the church itself. In 2018, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said the word Mormon was out, but still, in headline after headline, the AP, which dictates style to almost every news organization in the country, continued to use the term Mormon Church interchangeably.
There's no question there is a prejudice that exists.
Dean has experience here too, spending most of his life in newsrooms and cultivating journalists.
It's just lazy. It's sad. It has an effect on some people. Some people look at it and go, okay, well, I was interested in what that church does, but, not so much anymore because of that. Wow, they're causing the drought and, whatever.
But now we turn to the fight back, or rather, lack thereof. Examine any number of negative headlines, and rarely does the church issue more than a statement, nor do members fight back. The answer to why might be in a simpler place than you think.
You grow up in our church making sure you're checking the boxes, going on the mission, getting married in a temple. As you get older, you realize that the reason you do all these things is because you're trying to become more like your God. I mean, it's right there in the Gospel of Matthew. Be a peacemaker. Turn the other cheek.
I would hope that a lot of members of the church view it that way.
Jonathan Silva is another member of the church with a different perspective, that of a younger member who has his faith frequently questioned by his peers.
I mean, obviously I would love them to focus on positive things that the church does, all the humanitarian work we do.
But he added something interesting, that fighting back isn't with words, but by example.
They know who I am. They know I'm LDS. And they know how I conduct my life and how I treat others. And I think that's been a much bigger example than any piece of media.
That doesn't always mean agreeing.
Just because I'm a member of the church doesn't mean I agree with everything. Just how I am an American, I don't agree with everyone in Texas, in New York, in California, and that's a very similar thing in the church.
I think I went from being defensive about those types of things that you're talking about to being more thoughtful about them. Yeah, there are people who are really bothered by the bigotry, by the animosity toward the church. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's pretty straightforward, but it's not easy all the time.
Not easy, but it's what seems like the choice most are making.
I think we stand our ground and make sure that people know our convictions, but we don't do it in a way that we see happening in the culture today. It just doesn't do anyone any good.
But what about those who continue to be critical? As a closing message to those, whether at a BYU game, in charge of the next documentary, or a journalist looking for a story, Dean Painter shared this.
When you sit in that chapel, they're one on every corner, it seems like, in Utah, right? When you sit in there and you look around at your neighbors and some other folks, you realize that they're all just there to be trying to be better people. And I just wish people could experience that by themselves and not hear it from, some crazy thing that went on in a movie or something. Let's get in an environment where we can talk about it. I'll give you my best answers.
So let's add you as a viewer into this discussion. We have put a poll up on our website asking you if you thought people outside of Utah have a misunderstanding of the LDS church culture. The answer, 46% of people answered yes. 53% say they don't think so. So very interesting, pretty close to even, but we were kind of watching that a little bit earlier, that it was very close. It was almost 50-50 and started spreading apart as the night goes along. So very interesting topic.
Interesting to note that just about every religion is targeted at one point or another, and there is always pushback. Most of the time there's pushback in that way. How is it that somehow society looks the other way when the LDS Church is targeted, and it's almost acceptable, socially acceptable, to do that?
Every single person that I interviewed said exactly what you said, and we can't get into it in the 30 seconds that we have in terms of this whole scope of it, but the short answer is most members believe that what you said is true, that it's more acceptable to go after the LDS Church, but instead, like you heard, they want to go and fight back by example, much more so than going on social media and starting a firestorm of comments on it. They want to make sure their example is what's put forward, and that's what it seems like.
And to your point in your piece, Spencer, the church seldom releases statements.
Absolutely.
They turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
Great.
So, my dear brothers and sisters, as you've heard, there is a lot of targeting. Members of the church are always being targeted, and there's always about these, bad things that people speak about the church every now and then. But I kind of liked that there is an awakening right now, and mostly people outside are actually seeing what the church is doing, and they may not have same, thinking and ideas as pertain to what other people are actually doing. And I remember one time before I joined the church, I used to hear, because I used to go to Pentecostal world after I had just left Catholic, and I will hear preachers speak about missionaries. You'll wonder sometimes. They will tell you, beware of Mormons. They are not good people and all that. And that was a time when the church was just very new in the country, and people will just speak very bad things about the church. But the best thing is that every time you meet these missionaries, they will always show you by example. You look at the example, you look at what they share. It's directly and absolutely opposite from what those preachers were actually telling us about the church. And these are some of the things that I kind of agree that members of the church, we need actually to be more of an example than just being on social media and all that stuff. We need to be more of an example, because our examples will really radiate that love to people. And that one speaks volume as to why after all this targeting and misrepresentation, the church is very hesitant, to answer or maybe to react on certain things, because those things are not they are not actually all that important, because our focus is only one thing, is to ensure that people come unto Christ and they are perfected in Him. And we cannot actually, react simply because the world is actually calling us to do so. And there is a talk that Elder David, is it Darling H. Hawks? There's one time he gave a talk and he said that how can you be a lifesaver when you just dress like all the swimmers in the beach? You remember the talk? Yeah, he gave that talk, and he was kind of explaining that if we are to be the examples of the world, we should not actually, behave like the world. We need to be different, and that is what members of the church are actually doing every now and then. You show people by example. You show them by example, but not just by simply words and all that. So that is what exactly people are saying. Is the LDS church culture under attack? Yes, it is under attack, but the Lord is over all. Everything is actually centered on the Lord, and members of the church are fully committed in keeping these principles. as they strive forth even to share light into the entire world. Now, thank you very much. God bless you, and I'm looking forward to see you again next time. See you.